handsome guy kept getting rejected by his girlfriend for several days straight, until one night, a beautiful man appeared and met him. The beautiful man showed his ID card and student ID. The guy looked closely and saw that it was his girlfriend's information. He thought the beautiful man had picked up the documents, but unexpectedly, the person took off their hood and with innocent eyes admitted, "You are my girlfriend." This strange thing happened before Yoon Jae and Ji-eun were deeply in love. After the interview, Ji-eun's feet hurt from wearing high heels. Yoon Jae immediately changed her shoes for her. When he put a band-aid on the scrape on her ankle, Ji-eun threw herself into her boyfriend's arms, saying that she really loved this cute boyfriend. Yoon Jae studied astronomy, was passionate about the universe, and knew astronomical knowledge by heart. He also planned a road trip with his girlfriend, drawing a very large itinerary board by hand. In it, he intentionally left a blank space after 9 p.m., saying that they would pick stars together with his girlfriend during the long night. Finally, when Ji-eun got home, they both passionately kissed at the door, despite being constantly interrupted by Ji-eun's older sister. But for the couple in love, every moment was sweet. Knowing Ji-eun was about to travel with her boyfriend, her best friend Yoo-ri frankly gave Ji-eun condoms, reminding her to protect herself and take safety measures. Thinking of the hidden meaning of picking stars that her boyfriend mentioned, Ji-eun shyly put the condoms in her bag. That night, Yoon Jae called and asked her to come downstairs. Seeing her boyfriend driving a bright red sports car, Ji-eun was surprised. Yoon Jae explained that he borrowed the car from the owner of the coffee shop where he worked. The night before the trip, they continued to kiss outside the door. That night, Yoon Jae prepared a star-shaped necklace, intending to give it during the trip. Ji-eun was lying on the bed with a face mask, wanting to get a good beauty sleep. The next morning at breakfast, his parents and younger sister continuously put meat on Yoon Jae's plate, reminding him to eat a lot of meat to have strength. Yoon Jae quickly explained, "I don't need strength. This trip is completely innocent. I'm not planning to do anything intimate." As he spoke, the glass cup on the table accidentally fell and broke, making Yoon Jae feel like it was a bad omen. Meanwhile, Ji-eun groggily woke up in bed, went into the bathroom to remove her face mask. As soon as she looked up into the mirror, she immediately froze. In the mirror, there was an image of a beautiful man. So shocked, Ji-eun quickly washed her face, muttering to herself that this was just a dream. But when she slapped her face, the pain was so real it stunned her. Just then, her older sister walked into the bathroom. Ji-eun quickly covered her mouth and turned her back. At first, her sister only noticed Ji-eun's pajamas were tight, thinking her sister had gained weight. But upon closer inspection, she discovered her sister's feet were unusually large. Looking at her physique, her sister immediately panicked, thinking a pervert had broken into the house. Without a word, she turned on the shower and sprayed water at Ji-eun. Ji-eun was drenched and quickly tried to calm her sister down. During the struggle, Ji-eun pushed her wet hair to the side, revealing a perfectly handsome face. As someone who loved handsome men, her sister was immediately captivated. Ji-eun explained that she was her sister, asking her to look closely again. When she realized this wasn't a dream, her sister immediately kicked Ji-eun in his private parts, then screamed and ran away. Seeing that her sister still didn't believe him, Ji-eun lifted his pajama top to reveal a cat tattoo on his shoulder, a tattoo. The two sisters had gotten together, promising to always trust each other no matter what happened. Although hard to believe, with the tattoo as proof, her sister finally accepted the bizarre truth before her eyes. At this moment, Yoon Jae arrived downstairs. To avoid being discovered by Yoon Jae, her sister lied that Ji-eun was sick, and it wasn't convenient to see anyone. Yoon Jae was worried and wanted to go inside to visit, but was continuously turned away. Watching her boyfriend leave sadly, Ji-eun could only swallow her tears, hiding on the balcony, unable to say anything. After Yoon Jae left, Ji-eun wrapped herself in a blanket, reading her boyfriend's messages, which included a video of a meteor shower. This was supposed to be the day they traveled together, but now she could only watch it on a screen, crying and tossing in bed, looking at the suitcase that had been packed long ago, but couldn't be taken. Ji-eun felt even more heartbroken. Yoon Jae was completely unaware. Every day, he diligently brought food, drinks, and fresh flowers to his girlfriend's doorstep. Each time, it was Ji-eun's sister who took them for her. Seeing Yoon Jae's sincerity, her sister reminded Ji-eun to either tell him the truth or break up. After a moment of hesitation, Ji-eun opened the suitcase, sighed, wiped away her tears, and decided to face this chaotic reality. In the rainy night, Ji-eun went to the coffee shop where Yoon Jae worked. She mustered all her courage, placed her ID card and student ID on the table, and confessed that she was Ji-eun. To prove her identity, Ji-eun also brought photos, her passport, her savings passbook, and audio recordings. explaining that besides becoming a boy, everything else remained the same. But Yoon-jae still didn't believe it, thinking it was a prank. On the reality TV show, Ji-eun had to count on his fingers, recounting every detail of their relationship. From the day they started dating, the first place they met, the first bouquet Yoon-jae gave, to even the part of her boyfriend's body she liked the most, his collarbone. Ji-eun recounted everything clearly, without missing a single detail. Even so, the situation was too unbelievable. Yoon-jae still refused to believe it. He even suspected that Ji-eun had been kidnapped by that man. So he angrily hit Ji-eun and dragged him to report to the police. Ji-eun cried and agreed, but asked her boyfriend to go with him to a place first. That place was Ji-eun's house. She showed Yoon-jae the matching cat tattoo on her shoulder and her sister's. Ji-eun said that becoming the opposite gender was due to a genetic trait in their family, and whether it happened or not was a matter of luck. Their mother had also experienced a similar situation, so they got this tattoo as a precaution, to prove their identity if by chance that happened. Yoon-jae was distraught and needed time to think. Ji-eun chased after him, saying she was willing to wait for as long as it took, just hoping they wouldn't break up. While Yoon-jae was still hesitant, Ji-eun took his hand, earnestly pleading for her boyfriend to believe her. In that moment, in Yoon-jae's eyes, the beautiful man in front of him seemed to match the image of his girlfriend in his memory. As night fell, Yoon-jae wandered alone on the street, recalling the first time he met Ji-eun at a freshman orientation. From the very first moment, he had fallen for her. While they were talking, another girl came over to say hello and introduced herself. It was then that Yoon-jae realized he had mistaken the person. Ji-eun and the other girl had the same name. Realizing his mistake, Yoon-jae awkwardly apologized and left. Yoon-jae immediately chased after her and held her hand. For him, from the very first moment they met, every moment with Ji-eun was a miracle. Throughout their relationship, Yoon-jae often told Ji-eun about mysterious and romantic cosmic knowledge. Once, Ji-eun unexpectedly kissed him, and he returned it with a passionate kiss. Now, standing on the steps where they first kissed, Yoon-jae suddenly felt confused. The next morning, Yoon-jae received a call from Ji-eun, asking him to come teach her how to shave. At first, Yoon-jae only intended to hang the razor and supplies outside the door and leave. But after some hesitation, he still walked into the house. Although it felt incredibly strange, Yoon-jae patiently guided Ji-eun step by step on how to shave. When Ji-eun accidentally cut his face, Yoon-jae anxiously had to demonstrate himself, gently gliding the razor across Ji-eun's face and tenderly placing his hand on her shoulder. Ji-eun's face turned red and her heart pounded. Even though she had turned into a boy, her feelings for her boyfriend hadn't changed at all. After helping him shave, Yoon-jae felt too awkward and quickly intended to leave. But Ji-eun clung to his arm, pouting. "Don't go." He even whined in a sweet voice. Yoon-jae finally couldn't resist and stayed. When the two ate noodles together, Ji-eun unconsciously wiped a sauce stain from the corner of his boyfriend's mouth. It was at that moment that Yoon-jae fully believed that the person in front of him was his familiar girlfriend. Not knowing what to do, Yoon-jae asked Min-hyuk, a friend who worked at the same coffee shop, for advice. Min-hyuk suggested finding the reason why his girlfriend turned into a man, and then solving it from the root. And traditionally, the way to break a spell is a kiss. Recalling the night before the trip, his girlfriend secretly gave him a soft candy, saying that eating candy would make him feel at ease, and hoping he would stay by her side forever. Yoon-jae decided to follow Min-hyuk's advice. That night, he ran quickly to Ji-eun's place, pushed her to the window, intending to kiss to break the spell. Ji-eun pouted, ready to receive Yoon-jae's kiss, but unexpectedly, Yoon-jae hesitated for a long time and didn't dare to act. Just then, Ji-eun's sister came out to throw out the trash. The two hiding behind the door were interrupted. Yoon-jae also took this opportunity to escape the awkwardness and leave the house. After Ji-eun left, Yoon-jae still felt heavy-hearted. Ji-eun's current appearance was clearly a boy, and he truly couldn't accept intimacy between two people of the same gender. Meanwhile, Ji-eun was also thinking of a way to solve the problem. The transformation from female to male was due to a genetic trait in her family. Her mother once told her that she also had a period where she turned into a man. Because of that, Ji-eun returned to the hair salon managed by her parents, intending to ask for clarification, but she was too shy to speak up. The publishing house sent good news that Ji-eun had passed the interview round, but she was both happy and helpless. She had passed, but she couldn't go to work. At this moment, someone approached, wanting to recruit the handsome Ji-eun to become an idol. There were also several female students who were crazy about her. Everyone loved this handsome face. Looking in the mirror, Ji-eun was both helpless and determined to take care of herself. Before turning back into a girl, she decided she had to take good care of this beauty. That day, Yoon-jae received a message from Ji-eun, a beautifully edited selfie. Seeing Ji-eun's cute pouting face in the photo, Yoon-jae associated it with the missed kiss from yesterday and went crazy. Now Ji-eun arrived at the cosmetics store. She habitually went straight to the women's cosmetics counter and happily tried a new foundation. She initially intended to try a new lipstick, but then stopped herself when she saw her face in the mirror. Just then, her best friend texted her, and Ji-eun remembered it was her friend's birthday today. She rushed to her friend's house, unexpectedly surprising her to wish her a happy birthday. Seeing a strangely handsome guy in front of her, her friend immediately slammed the door shut. Because she was a romance web novel author, Ji-eun's best friend immediately fell into her imagination, suspecting that the handsome man outside the door was a rich kid who had secretly loved her for a long time, or an obsessed fan of her work. After imagining all sorts of things, her friend Yu-ri immediately changed into a pretty dress and opened the door again. Ji-eun frankly admitted her identity, revealing a secret code only the two of them knew. When they were little, the two girls had created a dance together. Now, Ji-eun swayed his body and danced the familiar routine in front of his best friend to confirm. Yu-ri asked Ji-eun to answer a series of memory questions. Ji-eun followed, and every answer was completely correct. It was then that Yu-ri believed that the handsome man in front of her was her closest friend. After work, Min-hyuk pestered Yoon-jae, demanding that he treat him to fruit tea. Yoon-jae unexpectedly made a condition. If he treated, Min-hyuk had to kiss him. In Yoon-jae's eyes, if he tried kissing Min-hyuk first, maybe it would be easier to overcome the psychological barrier. While Min-hyuk was still flustered, Yoon-jae brought his lips close. But just seeing Min-hyuk's face, Yoon-jae couldn't bring himself to kiss a boy. Looking at Ji-eun's old photos and videos, Yoon-jae felt sad. Just then, Ji-eun called, but Yoon-jae didn't dare to answer, afraid that just hearing Ji-eun's male voice would make him unable to control himself, and asked to break up. In the evening, Ji-eun texted goodnight. After much hesitation, Yoon-jae finally replied, arranging to meet tomorrow. Receiving the message, Ji-eun cried under the covers. She understood very well that Yoon-jae was probably about to say goodbye. As expected, the next day, Yoon-jae spoke frankly. Ji-eun's masculine appearance made him feel confused, afraid that he wouldn't be able to maintain the relationship as before. Seeing Yoon-jae about to utter the words, break up, Ji-eun quickly suggested that before she turns back into a girl, they should temporarily be friends. Yoon-jae agreed to the proposal. That day, at Ji-eun's invitation, they both went to an internet cafe to play games. Ji-eun played very well, quickly using the game to bridge the distance between them. After one game, Yoon-jae finally no longer felt repulsed by Ji-eun. Yoon-jae gave Ji-eun an electric razor, a gift he had specifically bought for Ji-eun. Ji-eun hugged the gift like a treasure. Just then, Yoon-jae's high school sister came home and saw the handsome Ji-eun. Yoon-jae quickly lied that Ji-eun was his friend. His sister was immediately attracted to her brother's handsome friend. That evening, the girl barged into her brother's room, demanding that he give her a list of 100 multiple-choice questions about Ji-eun. Initially, Yoon-jae disagreed, saying his sister and Ji-eun could never be together. But his sister had leverage, using a private video on her brother's computer to threaten him, forcing Yoon-jae to yield. His sister's questionnaire was all about Yoon-jae's preferences, like favorite singer, favorite food. Because he hadn't completed the task given by his sister, Yoon-jae brought the questionnaire to Ji-eun. Ji-eun obediently wrote the answers. There was one question in the list that made Yoon-jae most curious. If tomorrow was the end of the world, what would Ji-eun want to do most? He wasn't sure if Ji-eun had the same thought as him. After that, Yoon-jae gave the completed questionnaire to his sister, while also reminding her that Ji-eun had a girlfriend whom he deeply loved, advising his sister to give up. Additionally, the one he gave his sister was just a copy. The original was still in his hand. And on it, he read the answer. If tomorrow was the end of the world, Ji-eun wanted to plant an apple tree with him. Yu-ri gave Ji-eun a pile of boy love comics, advising her to use them as reference material for her love life with her boyfriend, even meticulously guiding her on how to love as a boy. The first trick, be seductive. Following her best friend's advice, Ji-eun showered before Yoon-jae arrived, then intentionally sauntered in front of him in a seductive manner. But Yoon-jae completely ignored it, only reminding Ji-eun to quickly put on a shirt lest he catch a cold. Her best friend then taught the second trick, act like a man, proactively take on dangerous tasks. Ji-eun immediately got to work, proactively chopping ingredients for her boyfriend, but ended up cutting his own hand, requiring Yoon-jae to bandage it. Next was the eyes trick. While eating, Ji-eun continuously blinked flirtatiously at Yoon-jae, but Yoon-jae, a simple young man, thought Ji-eun had an eye infection. After all the tricks to charm the guy failed, Ji-eun used her ultimate move, suggesting Yoon-jae stay over, and even mentioned her sister wasn't home tonight. Unexpectedly, she was met with a blunt refusal. Ji-eun was incredibly disappointed with her own performance. But in reality, Ji-eun's strange style tonight made Yoon-jae very happy. The next day, Min-hyuk asked Yoon-jae to go with him to a gathering. Yoon-jae didn't want to go, so Min-hyuk turned his attention to the handsome Ji-eun. Receiving a signal from Yoon-jae's lips, Ji-eun immediately refused. With no other option, Min-hyuk approached Yoon-jae again, tempting him by saying that, among the girls at the gathering, there was one who looked very much like Han Ji-min, Yoon-jae's favorite actress. Knowing this, Ji-eun immediately felt uneasy and changed his mind, agreeing to go to the gathering with Min-hyuk. Facing that situation, Yoon-jae outwardly appeared calm reading a book, but his legs were trembling under the table. That evening, Min-hyuk's arranged date unexpectedly didn't show up. Min-hyuk intended to invite Ji-eun for a drink. Hearing this, Yoon-jae started to panic, constantly imagining intimate scenes between the two. But in reality, that evening, the two only went to eat beef tripe hot pot. While eating, Ji-eun went to the restroom, but due to a mistake, went into the women's restroom and was kicked out. Seeing the men's restroom in front of him, thinking of his current identity, Ji-eun dejectedly continuously poured himself drinks. Very quickly after that, Yoon-jae received news that Ji-eun was drunk, and he rushed to find Min-hyuk. Seeing Min-hyuk shirtless, Yoon-jae even intended to fight Min-hyuk, until he saw Ji-eun sleeping soundly, and then Yoon-jae calmed down. That night, Yoon-jae also slept over at Min-hyuk's house. Min-hyuk recounted that when drunk, Ji-eun kept calling Yoon-jae's name. Yoon-jae turned to look at Ji-eun, gently smoothing the worried frown lines on his forehead. The next morning, Yoon-jae woke up, turned to look at him. Unexpectedly, Ji-eun had turned back into a girl, both surprised and overjoyed. To avoid Min-hyuk discovering it, Yoon-jae quickly hugged both her and the blanket, carrying his girlfriend out. When she realized she had returned to her original gender, Ji-eun was incredibly excited and joyful, spending almost 24 hours a day on video calls with her boyfriend. The two clung to each other without leaving. The next morning, waking up and seeing her face was still female, Ji-eun breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed the transformation had finally ended. When showering, Yoon-jae, feeling uneasy, called on video again. Ji-eun immediately sent a cute photo, making Yoon-jae so excited that he kissed the picture of his beloved, despite cars splashing water all over him. For Yoon-jae, his girlfriend's return was the greatest joy of his life. Her parents came to help the two sisters, Ji-eun and her older sister, clean their room, and accidentally found a pair of men's underwear. They continuously questioned the two, asking who dared to seduce their daughter. At first, her older sister intended to confess everything, but Ji-eun bravely stopped her, lying that it belonged to her sister's boyfriend. Thanks to that, the two sisters narrowly escaped danger. After her parents left, her older sister asked Ji-eun why she didn't tell the truth about once turning into a boy, even though she was back to normal now. Ji-eun now recalled the past, having personally seen her mother cry about this. Her mother didn't want the two sisters to go through something similar to her. To keep her mother from crying, Ji-eun chose to keep it a secret, because it was already over, and it wasn't worth making her parents sadder. That morning, Yoon-jae received a breakfast message from Ji-eun. She was about to crack an egg, worried that this time she would encounter a double yolk egg again. Before turning into a boy, Ji-eun had also seen a double yolk egg for the first time. Thinking of the possibility that Ji-eun would turn into a boy again because of that egg, Yoon-jae truly panicked. To avoid a repeat tragedy, Yoon-jae abandoned his work, bought a bunch of food on the way, and messaged Ji-eun to absolutely not crack the egg. After buying breakfast, he immediately drove to his girlfriend's house. Ji-eun understood her boyfriend's anxiety and felt even more love because he was so adorable. The two couldn't control their emotions and were about to kiss, but they both remembered the awkward kiss when Ji-eun was male. After a slight hesitation, Yoon-jae proactively kissed Ji-eun because he truly loved the girl who had returned to her original form. Ji-eun put away the razor she used when she was a boy, and Yoon-jae also kept the 100-question survey that Ji-eun had filled out when he was male. Both wished each other good night, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. The next day, Ji-eun went to school to meet Yoon-jae, but unexpectedly saw him being close with another girl, a charming hot girl named Minju, who was his junior. Minju continuously showed off in front of Yoon-jae. Seeing this, Ji-eun immediately stepped forward and held her boyfriend's hand, asserting her claim. But Minju was extremely cunning. Not only did she not back down, but she also pinched Yoon-jae's cheek, declaring in front of Ji-eun that she had marked her boyfriend, and everyone knew Yoon-jae belonged to her. Min-ju also invited Yoon-jae to a welcome party at the club. She not only whispered closely in his ear, but also intentionally touched Yoon-jae's hand. Ji-eun angrily turned and left, going to a bar to drink beer to vent her anger. Yoon-jae tried to explain to Ji-eun that things weren't as she thought, but Ji-eun was at her breaking point, insisting that her boyfriend go to the club with Min-ju. She wanted to see if, as the official girlfriend, those other girls would still dare to pull any stunts. That evening, Ji-eun searched through her wardrobe to choose an outfit. Finally, following her sister's advice, she chose a simple outfit: jeans and a white t-shirt. Although simple, when Ji-eun wore it, it exuded immense charm. At the same time, Min-ju was also meticulously prepared, talking enthusiastically and proactively linking arms with Yoon-jae. Yoon-jae originally intended to wait for his girlfriend to enter together, but he couldn't stand Min-ju's pulling and pushing, so she dragged him into the club first. In the club, when Yoon-jae went to the restroom, Min-ju saw Ji-eun calling and answered the phone without permission. She also intentionally talked intimately with her friends about Yoon-jae, showing that the two were very close. On the other end of the line, Ji-eun was both worried and crying, because she had turned back into a boy. Seeing her boyfriend and that chick go into the club, and her having a mishap at a crucial moment, Ji-eun almost went crazy. Min-ju took that opportunity to continuously ply Yoon-jae with alcohol, pulling him up to dance. To win back her boyfriend, Ji-eun decided to unleash a big move, asking Min-hyuk for help. Min-hyuk prepared clothes, and then the two appeared stylishly, making the entire club turn to look. Yoon-jae was now drunk, being teased by Min-ju, and was grinning when Ji-eun suddenly appeared, his face full of jealousy. Yoon-jae was too drunk to be sober, vaguely seeing Ji-eun turn back into a boy. Ji-eun quickly took action, carrying Yoon-jae home with Min-hyuk before Min-ju could do anything more. Upon arriving home, Yoon-jae was still in a state of delirium, singing and dancing. During that time, he suddenly confided that he didn't understand why the person he loved had changed overnight. Hearing that, Ji-eun, standing next to him, also felt deeply sad. The next morning, Yoon-jae woke up, not clearly remembering what happened last night. His father worriedly asked about his relationship. Yoon-jae just sadly said that he had lost his girlfriend once again. His father also brought up last night's incident, that a boy had brought Yoon-jae home and helped him change and shower. Thinking of having his body seen by a boy, Yoon-jae went crazy again. His sister gave him a video of him drunk last night. Thanks to that video, Yoon-jae remembered the entire incident. When he was drunk, he mumbled that people couldn't change so erratically. Why was his girlfriend sometimes a girl, sometimes a boy? As if she was toying with his emotions. He just wished everything was a dream. Ji-eun then apologized to Yoon-jae, saying that it was because she was too concerned with her own feelings, and she shouldn't have appeared that night. After watching the video, Yoon-jae felt only restless and confused, immediately running to Ji-eun's house to apologize, but couldn't meet her. Ji-eun's older sister both comforted him, and subtly reminded Yoon-jae to rethink the relationship between them. Yoon-jae's mood was complicated. He tore open the soft candy Ji-eun had given him and ate one. He felt that only Ji-eun's candy could make him feel at ease. While at school doing homework with Min-ju, Yoon-jae's mind kept circling back to Ji-eun. That day, Yoon-jae stopped by the internet cafe, where he used to play games with Ji-eun. But this time, the seat next to him was empty. He played games and chewed candy alone. After that, Ji-eun arranged to meet Yoon-jae at the restaurant where they first met. Yoon-jae apologized for being drunk last time, but unexpectedly Ji-eun suggested breaking up. She used to think that turning into a boy was just a one-time thing, but now she couldn't control the future. In this chaotic situation, she wasn't confident enough to continue loving him. She didn't want to drag Yoon-jae's life down. Yoon-jae knew it was a well-thought-out decision. Yoon-jae suggested they play one more game. While playing, Yoon-jae poured out his heart. Compared to Ji-eun turning into a boy, what he couldn't stand was her leaving. He hoped they could maintain the current status quo. Without Ji-eun, his life would be empty and tiring. When the two played the game with the same understanding as before, Ji-eun nodded in agreement with the suggestion to just keep things as they were for now, because no one knew what would happen tomorrow anyway. On the way to take Ji-eun home, Yoon-jae gave her a box of the newest version of gummy candies. He always remembered Ji-eun's words that eating gummy candies would give people more courage. In this world, there was nothing that required more courage than loving someone. When she was alone, Ji-eun ate a piece of candy Yoon-jae gave her, and indeed she felt a surge of courage in her heart. Unexpectedly, her older sister came up with a new prank, making Ji-eun pretend to be her boyfriend to go home and meet their parents. Ji-eun wanted to cry but couldn't shed tears. Now this was great. Not only did she have to be her sister's boyfriend, but also her parents' future son-in-law. Upon arriving home, Ji-eun tried to pretend to be a stranger to everything in the house. Her parents, on the other hand, kept mentioning their younger daughter Ji-eun during dinner, and even said that their future son-in-law was Ji-eun's brother-in-law. Hearing the words, brother-in-law, Ji-eun couldn't help but spit out all his rice. After the meal, her older sister hinted that Ji-eun should confess everything to their parents, but she didn't know where to start. Just then, her mother was climbing high to get a cup and almost fell. In that critical moment, Ji-eun immediately rushed to support her mother. In a panic, she blurted out in her female voice, scolding her mother for putting the cup too high, and her father for not replacing the old chair. And just like that, her parents discovered Ji-eun's secret of turning into a male. However, after a brief moment of awkwardness, her mother gently spoke to Ji-eun, worried that her daughter would be hurt. Her father also comforted her, saying that, frankly, besides their two daughters, he had always hoped for a son. Comforted and encouraged by her parents, the insecurity in Ji-eun's heart completely disappeared. That evening, Ji-eun called Yoon-jae. At this moment, Yoon-jae was at school, preparing for an upcoming presentation. Ji-eun was both admiring and wishing she could go to school like Yoon-jae. Yoon-jae used his own way to encourage Ji-eun, saying that whenever he felt tired, he would think of her, and also hoped that he could become Ji-eun's only choice whenever she felt tired. Ji-eun smiled softly, wanting to share about the beautiful moonlight tonight. But on the other end, Yoon-jae was pulled away by his high school sister, who had locked him downstairs. The next morning, Yoon-jae and Min-hyuk prepared to go to Ji-eun's house. Ji-eun's best friend immediately reminded her to quickly put away all her belongings with feminine touches. Before the two boys arrived, Ji-eun immediately cleaned up, hid all the cute photos taken with Yoon-jae, put away all the feminine items in the house, replacing them with male items such as men's magazines. She even intentionally placed a pair of men's underwear on the sofa. A moment later, Yoon-jae and Min-hyuk arrived. When he saw Min-hyuk hugging Ji-eun, Yoon-jae immediately showed his jealousy by pushing Min-hyuk away. He also gently removed the small hair clip from Ji-eun's head. Seeing their photos still taped to the refrigerator, Yoon-jae quickly took them down and hid them. When he saw the covers of the magazines, which were all muscular men, Yoon-jae felt another wave of jealousy surge. However, Ji-eun still wore an apron as before, quietly cooking for guests. That image reminded Yoon-jae of Ji-eun in the past, when she also always cleaned very thoroughly, and whenever guests came, she would also pretend to know how to cook, even though the apron still had its tags on. Even though she had turned into a boy, Ji-eun's personality had never changed. During the meal, Min-hyuk continuously praised Ji-eun, saying that she was exactly his ideal type. Hearing that, Yoon-jae immediately retorted, reminding Min-hyuk to maintain his distance. As for Ji-eun, he was like a charming little imp, accidentally revealing the tenderness Yoon-jae had for her no matter how he spoke. When Min-hyuk was about to expose the relationship between the two, luckily Yoo-ri appeared just in time. To avoid being discovered by Min-hyuk, Ji-eun immediately ran and hugged Yoo-ri tightly, completely unaware that her best friend's face had long since turned bright red. Although Yoo-ri was there to hold the line, Ji-eun still couldn't avoid feeling awkward. While introducing friends to each other, she accidentally called Yoon-jae her boyfriend. Yoo-ri quickly covered for her, explaining that Ji-eun was just saying that her friend was a boy. Unexpectedly, Yoo-ri then got drunk and brought up how Ji-eun and Yoon-jae met at a blind date. Luckily, Min-hyuk was too engrossed in playing to pay attention, and even intentionally snuggled into Ji-eun's lap, which made Yoon-jae secretly jealous. While accidentally pressing hard on the ketchup bottle, he squirted sauce all over Ji-eun. Ji-eun went to change clothes, and was coincidentally seen by Yoo-ri, who noticed his toned chest. His friend's face turned red, and her heart pounded, but Ji-eun didn't notice anything. Instead, he covered her ears. Just then, Yoon-jae appeared, and realized Ji-eun was shirtless, so he quickly hid behind the door. But Yoon-jae's sharp eyes caught Yoo-ri's expression, and immediately realized that Yoo-ri had developed romantic feelings for his girlfriend. During dinner upstairs, the atmosphere among everyone became strangely awkward. Min-hyuk, who was always good at cracking jokes, received a call from one of his countless girlfriends. After confirming that Min-hyuk was indeed a playboy, Yoo-ri reminded Ji-eun to be careful, saying, "Birds of a feather flock together," implying that Yoon-jae might also be promiscuous. At the end of the meal, Yoon-jae intended to call a car for his best friend, but Ji-eun nonchalantly said she would sleep over at her place. Seeing Ji-eun and Yoo-ri about to spend the night together, a handsome boy and a beautiful girl, Yoon-jae couldn't help but imagine his best friend proactively seducing Ji-eun, and Ji-eun surrendering. This thought nearly drove Yoon-jae crazy. Sometimes he thought that males and females couldn't just be friends. Other times he blamed himself for being too suspicious. After all, Ji-eun wasn't really a man. Ji-eun truly had no such intentions. But Yuri could no longer control her emotions. In the room, Ji-eun paid no mind to his male body, still climbing into bed like two sisters, telling Yuri not to drink anymore, and personally taking off her glasses and turning off the bedside lamp. Facing the handsome man approaching, Yuri's face was red and her heart pounded, completely out of control, beginning to treat Ji-eun as a real man. The next morning, while helping Ji-eun wash dishes, his friend again got wet from the water. Ji-eun thoughtfully tied an apron for his friend, but Yuri once again blushed, her legs weak. Ji-eun didn't notice this strange reaction at all, but his older sister had observed everything. Her older sister reminded Yuri that her heart was entering a dangerous red zone. Realizing she had romantic feelings for her closest friend, Yuri screamed in panic and ran away. Meanwhile, all of Ji-eun's thoughts were still focused on Yoon-jae. The next day, Ji-eun personally prepared a lunchbox and went to school to find Yoon-jae. Right when Yoon-jae's presentation was on break, she was very excited, but then saw Yoon-jae with Min-ju, his junior. Ji-eun immediately hid the lunchbox behind her back. Yoon-jae chased after her, snatched the lunchbox, and ate it deliciously right in front of her. For Yoon-jae, only Ji-eun's lunchbox was a delicacy. But seeing Yoon-jae and his junior confidently presenting together in front of everyone, Ji-eun suddenly felt lonely, as if she was just an outsider in Yoon-jae's world. That evening, Yoon-jae and his classmates and professor held a celebratory party, but he fainted due to a digestive disorder. His junior took him to the hospital. Ji-eun and Yoon-jae's parents also quickly arrived. A nurse mistakenly thought Min-ju was Yoon-jae's girlfriend. The girl didn't explain at all, but even went along with it, claiming that she and Yoon-jae were dating. Yoon-jae's parents immediately believed her, praising Min-ju for being intelligent and beautiful. Seeing Min-ju continuously play the role of girlfriend and curry favor with Yoon-jae's parents, Ji-eun was so angry that she had to step forward to refute, asserting that Yoon-jae already had a real girlfriend, and Min-ju was lying. Min-ju still refused to stop, and loudly declared that sooner or later, she and Yoon-jae would be a couple, and even hinted that if Yoon-jae's real girlfriend wasn't even known by his parents, then their relationship probably wasn't that deep. Hearing that, Ji-eun couldn't hold back anymore and blurted out, "I'm Yoon-jae's official girlfriend." To attract the attention of the guy she liked, a manipulative girl secretly copied his girlfriend's dressing style and hairstyle. Yoon-jae suddenly fainted. His junior, who liked him, took him to the hospital, but lied to Yoon-jae's parents that she was his girlfriend. Ji-eun immediately exposed that lie, declaring that she was Yoon-jae's official girlfriend. As soon as she finished speaking, Ji-eun realized something was wrong, and quickly explained to Yoon-jae's parents. However, in the hospital room, seeing Min-ju and his parents taking care of Yoon-jae, Ji-eun suddenly felt out of place, as if she was an outsider. In the darkness, Ji-eun took her feelings outside the hospital. Unexpectedly, Yoon-jae came out, surprisingly pulled her close and leaned on her shoulder as he used to. Ji-eun was flustered, but Min-ju appeared at the wrong moment, using Yoon-jae's poor health as an excuse to pull him away. To thank Min-ju for taking him to the hospital, the next day Yoon-jae invited her for coffee, but she didn't find that enough, and even demanded to eat spicy hot pot, because she felt indebted. Yoon-jae had no choice but to agree. Min-ju then asked about Ji-eun, curious about their relationship. Yoon-jae didn't dare to tell the truth, only saying that Ji-eun was a kind friend. When he learned that Ji-eun had told his parents that they were in love, Yoon-jae was so shocked that he spat coffee all over Min-ju. Ji-eun stood by, secretly smiling. Unexpectedly, Min-ju seized the opportunity, pointed to the part of her body stained with coffee, and whined for Yoon-jae to wipe it off for her. Seeing this, Ji-eun boiled with anger, immediately rushing forward to glare at Min-ju. Min-ju also didn't hold back, uttering unpleasant words. Ji-eun retorted each sentence without backing down. "Are you also studying at this school?" "I don't want to answer." Seeing that the two were about to argue, Yoon-jae quickly pulled Ji-eun, intending to go eat spicy hot pot. "You were the one who invited me to that restaurant. I invited you to the restaurant that it show you. What do you mean it? Are you calling MEIT? So what? I call everyone it. You got a problem with that?" Unexpectedly, Min-ju also clung tightly to Yoon-jae's arm, demanding to follow. At the hot pot restaurant, Ji-eun and Min-ju began to frantically compete for Yoon-jae. Both tried to sit next to him. While eating, they fought over pouring chili oil into their bowls. Seeing Ji-eun so spicy he couldn't stand it, Yoon-jae suddenly froze, as if he was seeing his beautiful, lovely girlfriend from before again. forgetting that the person in front of him was now a boy. Yoon-jae quickly turned his face away to eat cake. Ji-eun, as before, gently wiped away the cake crumbs stuck at the corner of his mouth, making Yoon-jae even more confused. However, after that, Yoon-jae secretly met Ji-eun's older sister to ask about the difficulties Ji-eun faced after turning into a boy. Her sister recounted that after the gender change, Ji-eun's world changed a lot. Before, Ji-eun helped her best friend organize clothes, including bras, but now they were snatched back. Looking in the mirror and seeing his male face, Ji-eun realized that action was no longer appropriate. Her sister also realized that Ji-eun was very worried about the future and was trying to find a job. But it wasn't easy. Thinking about what her sister said and looking at Ji-eun's photo in his wallet, Yoon-jae decided to help Ji-eun. Therefore, he began to butter up his younger sister, who was currently in high school, and finally convinced his sister to agree to let Ji-eun be her tutor. That evening, to prepare for the interview, Yoon-jae meticulously prepared Ji-eun. Because his father had served in the military, he fabricated an identity for Ji-eun as having completed military service in Yongpyong. When everything was ready, Yoon-jae took Ji-eun to his house, but because he was too nervous, when asked about his military base, Ji-eun accidentally blurted out Pyongyang. Pyongyang is in North Korea, which made Yoon-jae laugh all night. While Yoon-jae was still teasing Ji-eun, Ji-eun received a call from his best friend, Yuri, who was crying hysterically. Ji-eun quickly dragged Yoon-jae to the restaurant, where his friend was drunk and recounted what had happened that day. It turned out that today a colleague, Ms. Mina, who was also a web novel author, had introduced her to a blind date. When she saw the person, Yuri was almost stunned to death. The other party was a middle-aged man with an oily face, who ate ravenously, and even wore a wig. Yuri could only cry without tears. This wasn't the first time she had been introduced to such terrible dates. Although she had been single since childhood, it wasn't to the extent that people would look down on her like that. Ji-eun wanted to comfort his friend. At this moment, Ms. Mina texted, pretending to be concerned about the date's outcome, but actually being sarcastic, advising Yuri not to be too picky, and then invited her to her birthday party, saying that the other person would also be there. Seeing the screen full of provocation, Ji-eun couldn't help but get angry on behalf of his friend. From that evening, he carried the drunk Yuri home as before. He helped his friend take off her shoes, remove her glasses, and intended to help her take off her clothes, but stopped when he thought of his current male identity. At the same time, Yoon-jae was also troubled on his way home. The drunk Yuri said she wanted to date Ji-eun, no matter what Ji-eun was like, but Ji-eun rejected that feeling. She was still waiting for the day she could turn back into a girl and be Yoon-jae's girlfriend as before. That evening, thinking back to the conversation between Ji-eun and her friend, Yoon-jae's heart was restless and confused. The next morning, Yuri woke up sober, feeling a little awkward about what she had said last night. Luckily, Ji-eun had woken up early and cooked fried rice. While eating, the two talked about their old dreams. Like her friend, Ji-eun used to be a girl who loved literature, dreaming of becoming a writer. But unfortunately, she never won any awards in competitions. In contrast, Yuri had no expectations but shone brightly, and embarked on the path of writing. Now, Yuri told Ji-eun that a fan often left comments under her stories, and she would rely on that person's opinions to revise her stories. In fact, Yuri knew very well that person was Ji-eun, who always secretly supported her. Yuri believed that Ji-eun had a talent for writing. That evening, Ji-eun accidentally discovered a notebook in her bag, containing all her comments on Yuri's stories, carefully cut and pasted, preserved over the years. It wasn't just a thank you, but also Yuri's way of motivating her best friend to continue pursuing her dream. Because he missed his girlfriend Ji-eun lately, Yoon-jae had been experiencing hallucinations. In his eyes, the girls around him all seemed to transform into Ji-eun, as if she had truly returned in the form of a girl. But reality was not like that. Ji-eun sought out Min-hyuk, asking him to pretend to be her boyfriend for a day, to attend a birthday party with Yuri, to spare her friend from embarrassment in front of everyone. But Min-hyuk refused because his friend wasn't his type, and at the same time advised Ji-eun to personally work on his appearance. Ji-eun was truly an ideal Prince Charming. With Yoon-jae's encouragement, Ji-eun decided to attend the party, vowing to take revenge for her friend. When she saw Ji-eun wearing the cloak, even her older sister's mouth watered. At the party, the other girl outwardly introduced Yuri as a goddess to everyone, but was actually subtly mocking her. Yuri felt like she was sitting on hot coals, and it got worse when she discovered the middle-aged man she once went on a blind date with was also present. Miss Mina even said Yuri should get married soon to settle things, and the man brazenly pulled Yuri's hand, demanding to go eat hot pot. When Yuri refused, he still tried to pull her, Just then, Ji-eun appeared, pulled Yuri away, and introduced her to everyone as his girlfriend. The man saw this and left. During the party, Ji-eun continuously defended Yuri, showing the indulgence of an ideal boyfriend, and at the same time continuously refuted Miss Mina, who had previously mocked his friend. Finally, she even held Yuri's hand and left the party amidst the envious gazes of the crowd. But Yuri was not happy. She blamed Ji-eun for acting on her own without thinking. Yuri was afraid that if she mistook the prank for reality, what if she actually fell for Ji-eun? At that moment, Yoon-jae was looking at old photos of Ji-eun, his lovely girlfriend from before. Just as he was missing her, Ji-eun appeared, smiling like the girl she used to be. But upon closer inspection, it wasn't Ji-eun, but his junior Min-ju wearing clothes identical to Ji-eun's. Earlier, Min-ju had found photos of Yoon-jae with Ji-eun in a book. She intentionally copied Ji-eun's style. But Yoon-jae was still immersed in the illusion, continuously praising the beauty in front of him. The scene of Yoon-jae and Min-ju being intimate was witnessed by Ji-eun. Standing silently in the corner, watching Yoon-jae's gaze directed towards Min-ju, Ji-eun felt only heartbreak and loneliness. Despite being angry, Ji-eun still comforted herself, trying to meditate to stabilize her emotions. The next morning, Ji-eun began tutoring Yoon-jae's younger sister, a mischievous girl, who quickly realized the ambiguous relationship between her brother and Ji-eun. The girl misunderstood that her brother liked boys. That evening, Ji-eun brought spicy rice cakes to Yuri, but Yuri didn't say a word throughout the visit. Ji-eun then used a familiar trick, adorably pinching her best friend's cheek. Yuri quickly stopped him, and gave Ji-eun a 3-clause agreement, clearly stating the rules to follow when living together. For example, since Ji-eun was now a boy, he had to control all desires towards his best friend's body, not act like a male lead in a romance novel, and intentionally create romance. At the same time, Yuri also apologized for the argument last night, expressing that she was trying her best to control her feelings for Ji-eun. In contrast to that confused emotion, Min-ju, his junior, was incredibly excited to be praised by Yoon-jae for being pretty. The next day, she eagerly went to meet her crush, but Yoon-jae once again emphasized that he already had a girlfriend. Although rejected, Min-ju was not discouraged, and even showed Yoon-jae the latest post on the school forum. In the post was a series of incredibly stylish photos of Ji-eun at the bar, accompanied by numerous comments from female fans, who were captivated by Ji-eun's appearance, looking for a deer in the forest, a Korean slang term for a very attractive person. In just a few hours, Ji-eun had climbed the ranks of the most charming guys at the bar. Yoon-jae was both worried and angry, afraid that Ji-eun would become too popular and be stolen by someone else. Concerned, he went to see Ji-eun to ask how he felt about suddenly getting attention from thousands of people. Fortunately, Ji-eun still maintained a calm attitude, thinking that the adoration would eventually fade. Ji-eun also asked back about last night, but Yoon-jae kept quiet about his junior. Although angry, Ji-eun still chose to endure, returning to meditation to clear his mind. The next day, his older sister showed Ji-eun a new video of her. In it, a serious blogger analyzed the mysterious identity of the handsome Ji-eun, with various theories ranging from the son of a chaebol to a trainee about to debut. Ji-eun suddenly became incredibly famous. Just appearing in public meant being secretly photographed, and even self-proclaimed bloggers called to bother him, making Ji-eun extremely tired. Having no other choice, Ji-eun moved into his best friend's house temporarily. To help Ji-eun get out of trouble, his best friend came up with a self-sacrificing plan. Pretend Ji-eun was her boyfriend to quell all illusions of female fans. Therefore, they started taking a series of sweet couple photos, and the photographer was none other than Yoon-jae. Although he knew it was just acting, when he saw Ji-eun being intimate with someone else, Yoon-jae couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. Immediately after, the affectionate photos were posted on social media by his best friend. As a fairly famous web novel author, the photos were wildly shared by fans in an instant. When she saw the photos, Yoon-jae's sister misunderstood, thinking that Ji-eun was too timing in betraying her brother. Ji-eun frantically explained that posting those photos had another purpose: to divert public attention from the relationship between her and Yoon-jae, because their relationship couldn't be discovered by outsiders yet. After hearing this, his sister became happy again. The next day, Ji-eun's best friend held a new book signing event. Yoon-jae's sister was also present, as she was a loyal fan of Yuri's novels. A moment later, Ji-eun and Yoon-jae also arrived, but they caught his sister posing for photos. The photographer was Min Hyuk, a notoriously lecherous young master. Yoon-jae rushed over in a panic to intervene. After finally pulling his sister away with difficulty, Miss Mina also appeared. She intentionally wanted to embarrass Yuri in front of the crowd, suspecting that this handsome Ji-eun and Yu-ri were not actually a couple. Therefore, she pulled Ji-eun closer to Yu-ri and declared in front of everyone that they were lovers. Under the countless gazes of fans and passers-by, Yu-ri was forced to pretend intimacy, awkwardly calling each other, "my love." But the other girl still wouldn't let go, and incited the crowd to demand that the two kiss publicly. Ji-eun was flustered and didn't know what to do. Finally, Yu-ri bravely lifted Ji-eun's face and gave him her first kiss. Witnessing his girlfriend kissing another girl, Yoon-jae was stunned. At the end of the book signing, Yu-ri drank alcohol to drown her sorrows, wondering if she should take this opportunity to claim Ji-eun. Min-hyuk also happened to be in the pub and overheard Yu-ri's drunken monologue, from which he developed feelings for the cute girl. Leaving the pub, Yu-ri cried and laughed. She had given her first kiss to Ji-eun. If she had kissed a few times before, she wouldn't have cherished it so much now. Suddenly, Min-hyuk unexpectedly kissed her, but before he could finish, Yu-ri pushed him away, because she saw Yoon-jae going into a motel. At that time, Ji-eun had already gone home, which made Min-hyuk suspect that the person with Yoon-jae entering the motel was definitely his junior Min-ju, who was pursuing Yoon-jae. His best friend quickly reported this news to Ji-eun. Hearing that Yoon-jae and his junior went to a motel together, Ji-eun immediately panicked and hailed a taxi straight to the scene to catch them in the act. All three of them sneaked around outside the motel. His best friend was the first to not be able to stand it and rushed up to demand an explanation. Yoon-jae even started a timer. When Yoon-jae entered the room, facing the suspicions of Ji-eun and his friends, Yoon-jae explained that he went to the motel with his father. Ji-eun didn't believe him and demanded Yoon-jae lead them inside to verify. Yoon-jae had no choice but to lead the three of them to the room door. But when he knocked, a strange woman walked out. Ji-eun's best friend thought it was the junior, but immediately after, the woman's boyfriend appeared. It was then that Yoon-jae remembered he had knocked on the wrong door. After explaining, Yoon-jae knocked on the room next door, and indeed, his father opened the door. It turned out that because he lost money in stocks tonight, his father was kicked out of the house by his wife, and had to stay temporarily at the motel. All misunderstandings were resolved, and Ji-eun also apologized to Yoon-jae, inadvertently revealing that she had seen Yoon-jae being intimate with his junior. In her eyes, Yoon-jae's gaze towards his junior that day was the gaze of someone in love. Yoon-jae continued to assert that his junior was just a junior, and there was nothing and would be nothing between them. Ji-eun was somewhat relieved, and Yoon-jae frankly expressed that Ji-eun kissing his best friend also made him very uncomfortable. To put both sides at ease, they both committed to maintaining absolute distance. That evening, to ask for his wife's forgiveness, Yoon-jae's father dressed strangely and danced a cute dance in front of her. Yoon-jae thought his father was completely hopeless, but unexpectedly, the cuteness actually worked. His mother quickly forgave her husband. The next day, Yoon-jae followed his father's example, wearing a big pink bow tie and holding animal-shaped balloons to Ji-eun's house. He imitated his father's dance to make Ji-eun happy. While Ji-eun was happy, the junior unexpectedly appeared. Without waiting for Ji-eun and Yoon-jae to react, she announced that she had just moved in right upstairs from Ji-eun's house. While cleaning the house, Min-ju continuously ordered Yoon-jae around. Ji-eun was extremely annoyed but couldn't say anything, so she took matters into her own hands. From carrying tables and chairs to wiping cabinets, she helped Min-ju clean up one task after another, afraid that his junior would take the opportunity to get close to Yoon-jae. Ji-eun and Yoon-jae didn't know how to assemble the chairs. In the end, Yoon-jae and Min-ju completed it together. Seeing her boyfriend and his junior working together so harmoniously, Ji-eun was so furious that she saw stars, using nails on the floor to spell out a threat to Yoon-jae, saying that if he dared to interact with Min-ju again, she wouldn't be polite. However, Min-ju had no qualms whatsoever. She used the excuse of being hot to take off her jacket in front of Yoon-jae, swept her hair back, revealing sparkling sweat in her chest under her thin shirt. The scene in front of him was too seductive, and Yoon-jae, a straight man, indeed couldn't control himself, staring at his junior until Ji-eun glared at him. After cleaning up, Min-ju ordered 3 portions of takeout food, but there were no chopsticks, and his junior's house didn't have any either. Ji-eun then went back to his house to get some. It was then that Min-ju realized that the place she moved to was right next door to Ji-eun's house. After lunch, Ji-eun coincidentally discovered a couple photo of himself and Yoon-jae in his junior's suitcase. Min-ju explained that it was the photo Yoon-jae had left behind at the spicy hot pot restaurant the other day. She also commented on the girl in the photo, saying that it was just a picture, and in real life, she looked very ordinary, not beautiful at all like in the photo. Seeing Ji-eun get angry, Yoon-jae immediately comforted her, asserting that his aesthetic taste was the best. As he left, looking at Ji-eun and Min-ju, two rivals living next door to each other, Yoon-jae could only wave goodbye helplessly, looking back at her previous dressing style and then remembering the almost identical outfit Min-ju wore the other day. Ji-eun suddenly realized that his junior was imitating him with the intention of swaying Yoon-jae. That evening, Yoon-jae saw his father still cleaning the living room. It turned out his father had lost money in stocks and was now doing this to please his mother. His father used his own experience to teach his son that the more you like a woman, the harder she is to conquer, but also because you like her, you can't avoid her. No matter what difficulties you face, you must confront them. Yoon-jae was a little sad hearing that. He also wanted to confront things directly, but the person he wanted to confront was Ji-eun. Looking at the sweet photos of them from before, Yoon-jae sank into memories. He really liked and missed Ji-eun in the photos. Ji-eun seemed to have flown to a distant corner of the universe. In that moment, Yoon-jae suddenly remembered what Ji-eun once said. Even if Yoon-jae isn't here anymore, even if everything changes, she will still like him very much. Today, Ji-eun and his junior, Min-ju, two rivals, had now become neighbors in the same area. Min-ju still didn't know Ji-eun's true identity, happily calling him brother. Ji-eun praised Ji-eun for being like Yoon-jae, a kind and adorable male student, but not as clueless as Yoon-jae. Of course, in Min-ju's eyes, Yoon-jae was still the cutest boy in the universe. That day, a male student from the same school contacted Min-ju, lying that he wanted to organize a group gathering. And when she arrived at the meeting place, Min-ju saw that only that male student was there in the whole group. Under Min-ju's questioning, the male student admitted it was his birthday today, and hoped Min-ju could have a meal with him. Min-ju already knew the male student liked her, but she didn't have feelings for him. She casually bought a hat in the store, gave it as a birthday gift, and didn't forget to hint that for her, if it was someone she liked, even if the chances of being together were very small, she would still think about it many times and carefully choose a gift. Min-ju hoped the male student wouldn't do anything beyond the line in the future. The male student then showed no signs of giving up, swearing that he would pursue Min-ju to the very end. Ji-eun practiced yoga and meditation with her mother. Previously, when her mother turned into a man, it was also through this method that she overcame that period of sadness. Her mother felt guilty towards Ji-eun, blaming herself for passing on her problem to her daughter. Ji-eun didn't blame her mother. She was gradually adapting to this body, and was also trying her best to return to how she was before. In the afternoon, Ji-eun went to a bookstore to find books on writing. She coincidentally met the publisher who had interviewed her before, and the publisher introduced her to a book on writing. Standing before the person she greatly admired, Ji-eun was moved. The publisher also found Ji-eun familiar, but didn't remember that this was the girl who had come for an interview. He only introduced her to a web novel writing competition, organized by the publishing house, and advised her to submit an entry as a trial. Ji-eun received a call from Min-ju. She was working part-time at a historical performance venue, but the male lead who was supposed to play her husband was absent, so she called Ji-eun to fill in. To earn money, Ji-eun immediately agreed. On stage, he collaborated with Min-ju to portray a lovesick young master, but Ji-eun still wondered why Min-ju didn't call Yoon-jae, but called him instead. Min-ju explained that Yoon-jae was fair-skinned and soft, not looking like a model. However, personally, Min-ju still liked the fair-skinned and soft Yoon-jae the most. Knowing that such an extra performance could earn 200,000 won, Ji-eun quickly asked Min-ju to remember to call him next time. As Min-ju agreed, she received a message from Yoon-jae saying he had arrived. As Min-ju had invited him, Ji-eun panicked, as she didn't want Yoon-jae to see him in the historical costume of a young master, so he quickly ran away. Knowing Ji-eun was hiding, Yoon-jae immediately understood the reason, recalling that when Ji-eun was still a girl, they had planned to wear hanbok together, playing the roles of a young lady and a scholar. But now that wish was shattered. Min-ju's performance had a second act. Reluctantly, she pulled Yoon-jae onto the stage to fill in. Seizing the opportunity to play Yoon-jae's wife, Min-ju confidently embraced the person she liked. This scene made Ji-eun, standing in the corner, continuously scratch his ears and head. To attract the audience, the final scene was a kiss between husband and wife. In a hazy moment, Ji-eun seemed to see himself as a girl, wearing hanbok and kissing Yoon-jae. But then he collected himself, and saw that on stage, the person whose lips were approaching Yoon-jae's was his junior. Seeing Yoon-jae flustered and not knowing how to react, Ji-eun immediately rushed forward to disrupt the performance. Luckily, Min-ju reacted quickly, immediately added lines, and brought Ji-eun into a new role. Ji-eun also cooperated, improvising, and unexpectedly completed a historical love triangle play, that earned applause from the entire audience. Ji-eun recounted today's events to his best friend, who also revealed a secret this morning. Waking up, she suddenly remembered that she and Min-hyuk had kissed last night. It was her first kiss, which she couldn't forget, and realized she liked Min-hyuk. She asked Ji-eun to subtly help set her up with Min-hyuk in the future. Ji-eun pretended to be calm, but he remembered that when he and Yoon-jae were dating, his best friend hadn't wished them well at all, and even said they would definitely break up. When leaving, Ji-eun took a cute bubble machine from his best friend's house. He walked along, blowing bubbles like an innocent young girl. Nearing home, Ji-eun saw Min-ju being harassed by a male student. The male student continuously invited Min-ju to watch a movie, but when she learned that he had been stalking her, Min-ju angrily and flatly refused. The male student stubbornly confessed his feelings, even comparing himself to Yoon-jae, claiming that from academics to family background, he was better than Yoon-jae. Min-ju hated this type of boy even more, advising him to know when to stop. Unwilling to give up, the male student rushed forward and grabbed Min-ju, who was about to scream. Just then, Ji-eun coincidentally witnessed this scene. Without thinking, he immediately intervened, using the bubble machine in his hand to chase the male student away. Although they were rivals in love, due to several recent close encounters, the relationship between Ji-eun and Min-ju had significantly improved. Min-ju happily played with Ji-eun's bubble machine, and even wanted to invite Ji-eun to drink beer and eat fried chicken. At this moment, Ji-eun's older sister walked over and almost accidentally called Min-ju the fox next door, a nickname Ji-eun gave Min-ju. Ji-eun quickly stopped her to avoid revealing his identity, so he accepted Min-ju's invitation for fried chicken. Yoon-jae's parents went on a trip, and his sister also went out to hang out with school friends. Taking advantage of the empty house, Yoon-jae intended to invite Ji-eun on a date. For this date, Yoon-jae personally cooked a Western-style meal, and even took out his father's stored wine. When Ji-eun arrived, Yoon-jae was as romantic as ever, pulling out a chair for Ji-eun and pouring her wine. Ji-eun also sincerely praised Yoon-jae's cooking skills and thoughtful preparation. Ji-eun's eyes were drawn to a photo in the room. Yoon-jae explained that it was an observatory in Hawaii, where one could see the Milky Way, 12.8 billion light-years from Earth. Yoon-jae wanted to go there with Ji-eun. Ji-eun hesitated a bit. She had to return to her female form to get her passport smoothly. Yoon-jae also sighed and invited Ji-eun to the living room to watch a movie. But unexpectedly, his parents suddenly came home midway. Yoon-jae quickly told Ji-eun to hide, but seeing the Western-style meal, his parents kept asking if guests had come. Panicked, Yoon-jae had no choice but to lie that he was eating with his sister. After much effort to calm his parents down, Yoon-jae motioned for Ji-eun to leave first. But unexpectedly, his mother walked out of the room. Ji-eun quickly said that he came to tutor Yoon-jae's sister. Fortunately, Yoon-jae's mother believed them, and both narrowly escaped trouble. That evening at home, Ji-eun opened the writing book she had bought yesterday, and began trying to write a web novel. At this moment, Min-ju from next door rang the doorbell. She brought gifts for Ji-eun and Ji-eun's older sister, giving Ji-eun a rabbit-shaped bubble machine. Ji-eun wondered how Min-ju knew he liked rabbits, then immediately understood when he saw the rabbit-shaped hair clip on his head. His rival seeing him as a friend made Ji-eun both confused and awkward, even considering moving. At school, Yoon-jae held documents about the Hawaii Observatory, remembering what he told Ji-eun yesterday, and still deeply hoped to go to that dream place with her. Min-ju ran over again, linked arms with Yoon-jae, hoping to study abroad in Hawaii with him. Yoon-jae advised Min-ju to try applying to a school in Hawaii, but Min-ju got angry, saying that before, she only went for 1 year of exchange, and when she returned to Korea, she was taken advantage of by others, so now she would definitely not go anywhere casually again. Ji-eun's maternal grandfather went to a photo studio to take a portrait. After that, he stopped by his daughter's hair salon, happily showing off his newly bought floral shirt. Looking at the photo of her father in a pink shirt holding flowers, Ji-eun's mother suddenly felt a pang of sadness. When no one else was around, Ji-eun's mother suddenly called out, "Mother!" Following the voice, the old man who had just taken the photo smiled and turned around. It turned out that the person in front of her was not Ji-eun's mother's father, but her own mother. Many years ago, her mother had turned into a man, and for her entire life, she couldn't return to being a woman. She was worried about her granddaughter Ji-eun, wanting to talk to Ji-eun, believing that her optimism could help Ji-eun feel better. Ji-eun's mother asked, "Before life disappears, do you want to be a woman one more time?" Her eyes were full of passion. "Of course, I think about it every day." Unexpectedly, this conversation was overheard by Ji-eun. Ji-eun was almost stunned. The person she had called grandfather for over 25 years turned out to be her grandmother. Ji-eun couldn't accept this cruel truth for a moment, because she began to realize that she might also be like her grandmother, never able to return to her original identity for her entire life. Facing that possibility while walking on the street, Ji-eun's legs almost gave out. At this moment, Yoon-jae called, but Ji-eun didn't have the courage to answer. She no longer knew how to face Yoon-jae or herself. That evening, Ji-eun sat dejectedly outside her house. Min-ju coincidentally came home, helped Ji-eun into the room, and wanted to take her to the hospital. But Ji-eun adamantly refused. In her sleep, Ji-eun shed tears. Min-ju wiped them away, and Ji-eun unconsciously took her junior's hand, whispering that she really didn't want to live like this for her entire life. Min-ju didn't understand the meaning of Ji-eun's words, but out of worry, she stayed by the bed all night. In the middle of the night, Min-ju was too tired, and vaguely lay down on Ji-eun's bed, then pulled Ji-eun's blanket over them and slept beside her. A moment later, Yoon-jae arrived at Ji-eun's house and saw Ji-eun and Min-ju sleeping together with his own eyes. To prevent Yoon-jae from misunderstanding, Min-ju decisively slapped Ji-eun. Ji-eun refused to give up. Right in front of Yoon-jae, she grabbed Min-ju's hair, and the two struggled, loudly calling her Junior A. Fox Spirit. After the kiss that night, Yoo-ri started to like Min-hyuk. She bravely went to the coffee shop to find him and talk. Min-hyuk knew that besides riding and playing with Ji-eun, Yoo-ri had no other hobbies. So he took her to the stadium for a run. Yoo-ri didn't like sports and was exhausted after a few laps. But exercising with Min-hyuk tonight made her feel refreshed. Min-hyuk promised that as long as Yoo-ri wanted, he would always run with her like tonight. Ji-eun's older sister worked at a matchmaking company. That day, the beautiful coffee shop owner where Yoon-jae worked part-time, named Young-ja, came for a consultation. Young-ja had her own taste. She wasn't interested in elite men like doctors or lawyers. Ji-eun's older sister arranged to meet Young-ja privately to discuss her standards for choosing a partner, promising to do her best to help her with marriage. Young-ja frankly said that she liked someone and had met his parents. She casually asked about Ji-eun's older sister's relationship status. Ji-eun's older sister said she was still single, but recently, she happened to reconnect with her first love from high school and still had feelings for him. Young-ja said that if Ji-eun's older sister could get together with her first love, she would be willing to help organize the wedding and even sponsor the honeymoon trip. While they were talking, Ji-eun's older sister received news that her first love's father had suddenly passed away, and she quickly left. At the funeral, unexpectedly, Young-ja also arrived. The moment the two met, they both surprisingly realized an ironic truth. The man Young-ja liked was Ji-eun's older sister's first love. Facing this awkward situation, Ji-eun's older sister bowed her head and apologized, saying that her first love didn't know she liked him, and hoped Young-ja wouldn't misunderstand. Not wanting to affect their relationship, Young-ja explained that although she had met his parents, she and he were only in the getting-to-know-you stage, not officially dating yet. She suggested fair competition with Ji-eun's older sister, not backing down, and also hoped Ji-eun's older sister wouldn't give up. For a wealthy lady like Young-ja, the advantages in love were money and beauty, while Ji-eun's older sister had beautiful memories and youth with Young-suk. This was a confrontation between money and time. Both began to secretly prepare to win love. The man being fought over by two women also had his own thoughts. For many years, Young-suk had been studying for the civil service exam, but continuously failed. To push himself, he grew his hair long, vowing not to cut it until he passed. His father didn't care about the exams. His greatest wish before he died was for Young-suk to find someone who truly loved him. Previously, his father coincidentally met Young-ja and considered her an ideal marriage candidate for his son. Before he died, he instructed Young-suk that earning money was secondary. What was important was creating beautiful memories and making the family happy. That evening, Yoon-jae saw with his own eyes the scene of the two sharing a bed and pillow. To prevent Yoon-jae from misunderstanding, Min-ju immediately slapped Ji-eun. Ji-eun also didn't back down, immediately grabbed Min-ju's hair, and the two struggled. After being separated by Yoon-jae, they continued to exchange words, which made Yoon-jae stand up and leave. Seeing this, Ji-eun felt a bit disappointed. Unexpectedly, Yoon-jae returned again. First, he placed his hand on Ji-eun's forehead, then gently touched his cheek to make sure she didn't have a fever. And only then did he leave with peace of mind. Outside, Yoon-jae also scolded his junior for not hitting Ji-eun. Min-ju couldn't understand why Yoon-jae protected Ji-eun like some rare animal. In his heart, Yoon-jae was happy, realizing he cared about Ji-eun more than he thought. The next day, her parents intentionally came to visit Ji-eun, telling her that if she had any questions about the gender transformation, She could ask them. Ji-eun temporarily couldn't think of much, only asking her mother if she was still afraid. Her mother replied that she was afraid, but not of herself turning back into a man, but worried about her daughter. Ji-eun worried that she would be like her grandmother, unable to return to her original gender for her entire life. Her father advised Ji-eun to tell Yoon-jae the truth, but Ji-eun was still worried, afraid he couldn't handle it. Yoon-jae was pulled by his junior to meet an American professor. The professor was very pleased with their research report and invited them to study in the US. That university was the dream school for astronomy students. Minju was overjoyed, but Yoon-jae hesitated, not wanting to leave Ji-eun alone. Ji-eun came to find Yoon-jae, putting his arm around his shoulder like close brothers, deciding to frankly admit, perhaps I won't be able to return to being a woman for my entire life. But every time he was about to say it, his best friend's phone call interrupted. Finally, Ji-eun turned off his phone. Unexpectedly, the phone vibrated, and the screen showed Min-hyuk calling. The two quickly returned home, seeing his best friend, Yoo-ri, and Min-hyuk eating braised ribs, a dish sent by Ji-eun's maternal grandfather. While eating, Minju noisily barged in looking for a lost earring. Seeing the braised ribs, she shamelessly joined the group. At this moment, her maternal grandfather called, instructing that whoever ate the ribs had to come to the island to help out on the weekend, except for Yoon-jae. Everyone else had their own plans. Only Ji-eun planned to bring a list of questions to meet her grandmother, but as soon as she opened the door, she saw Yoon-jae along with Yoo-ri, Min-hyuk, and Minju had all arrived. They all decided to go to the island to help out, as a thank you to her maternal grandfather. Her maternal grandfather assigned Ji-eun to sleep with him, privately. Her maternal grandfather returned to his gentle demeanor, like his grandmother, reminding Ji-eun to apply sunscreen before working. Ji-eun also saw that her grandmother's room was full of feminine items and pink clothes she liked when she was young. Under her grandmother's guidance, Ji-eun and everyone went to the pier to carry seafood. Her grandmother pulled Ji-eun aside. Ji-eun immediately asked all the questions on her list, especially about her husband, the real maternal grandfather. Her grandmother said her husband was a gentle, handsome man. When she turned into a man, she confessed the genetic trait in the family, but he couldn't accept it. However, she didn't blame him, because it was a natural reaction. On the contrary, she was grateful that he had left her with a cute daughter. Her grandmother also revealed a secret. A famous Korean poet was Ji-eun's great-grandmother. Her grandmother and great-grandmother, after turning into men, didn't despair but learned to perceive the world in a different way. She hoped Ji-eun could also look at life positively like that. After her grandmother's words, Ji-eun's feelings of insecurity gradually subsided. At this moment, Yoon-jae walked over. Her grandmother told Ji-eun that Yoon-jae had previously come to see her, frankly speaking about his romantic relationship with Ji-eun. With a confident demeanor, determined to treat Ji-eun well, her grandmother saw that Yoon-jae was a good young man, so to prevent him from being hurt, Ji-eun decided to tell him the truth. My maternal grandfather is actually my maternal grandmother. But Yoon-jae heard it and was not afraid at all, nor did he ask to break up. Ji-eun was surprised. Yoon-jae replied with a determined gaze. Ji-eun has her way of thinking, and I have my stance. Although the shock is great, I don't want to make a hasty decision. Compared to an ambiguous future, cherishing the present is most important. After saying that, Yoon-jae pulled Ji-eun to the pier with everyone else. Here, Minju was bitten by a fish and demanded Yoon-jae go to the doctor with her. For the first time, Ji-eun chose to let go, agreeing for them to go alone. Minju seriously confessed her feelings, thinking that Yoon-jae also liked her, but he only considered her a junior with similar interests. Regardless, Minju kissed Yoon-jae's cheek, just as a fisherman on the island caught them. Upon returning, the fisherman intentionally exaggerated the story in front of everyone. Ji-eun sadly walked away silently. She was sure Minju initiated it, but she still felt uncomfortable. Yoon-jae wanted to talk things through clearly with Ji-eun, preferring Ji-eun to be angry like before. But Ji-eun was frank about her current identity. I don't have the right to be jealous. Anyone looking at me sees a man. What reason do I have to be angry? Because of this, the two had a significant conflict. Yoon-jae confided his worries to Ji-eun's grandmother. He didn't know how to help Ji-eun. Her grandmother used her life experience to teach Yoon-jae that he didn't need to help, and certainly didn't need to force sacrifices. Only by focusing on living his own life well would he truly be thinking of Ji-eun. Happiness gained from someone else's sacrifice would certainly not last long. The sea breeze at night was a bit chilly. Minju suddenly asked Yoon-jae if he had decided to study abroad in the US yet. Ji-eun heard this and only then realized that Yoon-jae was facing a difficult choice between love and his dream. In the middle of the night, Ji-eun tossed and turned, unable to sleep, and so did Yoon-jae. Outside, Minju asked why he was hesitating. Yoon-jae didn't answer, but she guessed it was definitely because of his girlfriend. Seeing that he still wouldn't speak clearly, Minju took his hand and asserted, "At least right now, no one in the whole world loves Yoon-jae more than I do." Minju didn't expect these words to be clearly overheard by Ji-eun in the room. One morning later, Ji-eun woke up with a start, discovering she had turned back into a girl. To avoid suspicion, Ji-eun secretly put on her grandmother's clothes. Yoon-jae pulled his girlfriend, wanting to leave, but Minju questioned where Ji-hun went. Seeing his girlfriend stammer, Yoon-jae quickly explained, lying that Ji-hun had already gone back to Seoul. His junior still kept asking questions. Ji-eun frankly replied, "The important thing is that I'm back now." Right in front of Minju, Ji-eun and Yoon-jae looked at each other with affection, exchanging words of longing before leaving the island. The two then had a private conversation with her grandmother. Her grandmother was a little worried that Yoon-jae wouldn't be able to adapt to Ji-eun's changes, but he asserted that he was experienced in dealing with this kind of situation. Her grandmother instructed Ji-eun that even if she turned into a boy again, she must not hate herself. If she didn't even love herself, she couldn't hope to receive recognition and love from others. Returning to Seoul, Yoon-jae and Ji-eun were inseparable. Ji-eun began to worry about how to explain things to Minju, her neighbor across the street. Yoon-jae already had a reason prepared, saying that his girlfriend and Ji-hun were cousins, and because they had personal difficulties, they temporarily stayed with her and had now returned. Thinking to avoid being discovered, Ji-eun crept home, but unexpectedly saw Minju there. It turned out she had been invited in by Ji-eun's older sister. Seeing Ji-eun, Minju became even more suspicious. In a panic, Ji-eun quickly repeated Yoon-jae's lie, and Minju was temporarily convinced and left. The next day, his junior discovered a bag of uncollected food outside Ji-eun's house. The receipt also noted an extra serving of fish balls. Recalling the last time they ate spicy hot pot together, Ji-hun particularly liked eating fish balls. Her grandmother sent Ji-eun's luggage that was still on the island back home. Inside were some photos of her grandmother when she was young and her great-grandmother, who had once turned into a man. The photos had a message. A person with a dream, no matter how difficult, will move forward. No matter what difficulties they encounter, they will see them as gifts and blessings. Thinking of Yoon-jae's dream, Ji-eun began researching the American university he wanted to attend, hoping to understand more about her boyfriend's inner world. The next day, Ji-eun went to school to find Yoon-jae. Minju saw Ji-eun and deliberately got close to him publicly, chatting happily, which made Ji-eun furious. But Ji-eun didn't back down. She even deliberately showed off in front of Minju that she was about to go on a date with Yoon-jae after many days. Finally, their date was sweet and comfortable. That evening, Ji-eun proactively brought up Yoon-jae's dream. She hoped Yoon-jae could attend that university and not give up his dream because of her. In front of Yoon-jae, Ji-eun took out the photo of her great-grandmother, who had once turned into a man. The inspiring story of her relative who dared to face adversity gave Ji-eun renewed faith and courage. Besides hoping Yoon-jae could pursue his own dream, Ji-eun also planned to restart her abandoned dream, hoping that one day she could become a web novelist just like her best friend. But this didn't mean breaking up. Ji-eun believed that while working towards their dreams together, she and Yoon-jae could still meet, communicate, and miss each other. Yoon-jae mentioned the male Ji-eun in his girlfriend, and he seemed to see the shadow of that male student. After spending time together, Yoon-jae discovered that the male Ji-eun was a real man. That evening, Ji-eun and Yoon-jae hooked pinkies and made a promise. Yoon-jae gave Ji-eun a star necklace. Both promised they would definitely achieve their own dreams. In contrast, Minju, after the shock, sought out Ji-eun's older sister for a drink. Coincidentally, that evening, Ji-eun's older sister confessed her feelings to her first love, but was bluntly rejected. The other person only saw her as a close school friend. Drinking with Minju to drown her sorrows in her drunken state, Ji-eun's older sister accidentally revealed her younger sister's secret, saying that her younger sister and the male student Ji-hun were actually the same person. At first, Minju only thought Ji-eun's older sister was talking nonsense while drunk. But remembering all the things that happened after meeting Ji-hun, she had to believe the seemingly absurd truth. That evening, Minju went to see Ji-eun to confront her, questioning who Ji-hun really was. But Ji-eun adamantly refused to admit it, continuously emphasizing to her junior that she herself was Yoon-jae's official girlfriend. And what right did Minju have to daydream in broad daylight? Exchanging words back and forth, the two girls once again lunged at each other, pulling hair. Minju, with messy hair, ran off crying to Yoon-jae. But Yoon-jae paid no attention to her pitiful appearance and rushed to Ji-eun's side. helping her wipe the scratches inflicted by his junior. By late afternoon, the guy who was pursuing Minju showed up at her door again. He didn't want Minju and Yoon-jae to go to the US together, constantly clinging to Minju and refusing to let go. Just then, Ji-eun walked by. Without a word, he immediately grabbed a green onion and gave the guy a beating, rescuing Minju. The scene in front of her made Minju feel incredibly familiar, because a few days prior, when she was bothered by that guy, Ji-hun had also used the exact same method to chase him away. To confirm the truth, Minju called Ji-hun right in front of Ji-eun. Sure enough, Ji-eun's phone immediately rang. Faced with Minju's barrage of questions, Ji-eun finally chose to admit everything. Yes, she is Ji-hun. Cornered by Minju's persistent questions, Ji-hun was finally forced to come clean. When Minju found out that the male and female versions of Ji-hun were actually the same person, and that Yoon-jae had known all along, she felt completely betrayed. It turned out she was the only one left in the dark, made to feel like a complete fool. When Ji-hun changed back into a girl, Yoon-jae was overjoyed. Passing by a street food stall, he made a point to buy her the special red bean, less fish-shaped pastry she loves. Since Ji-hun's sister wasn't home that night, Yoon-jae happily stayed over. The two shared a sweet moment, eating the pastries together at Ji-hun's house. Ji-hun even made a heartfelt prayer, hoping she wouldn't be turned back into a boy again. Later that night, Ji-hun fell asleep with her head in Yoon-jae's lap. But when Yoon-jae woke up in the middle of the night, he was shocked to find that Ji-hun had transformed into a boy once again. Yoon-jae didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and neither did Ji-hun. They both desperately wished it was all just a bad dream. Minju even sought out a therapist, but when she mentioned someone changing gender overnight, the doctor gently suggested that maybe she was the one with the problem. Minju then went to Yoon-jae, asking if he could really accept a Ji-hun who constantly switches genders. He sighed, saying he had to, because he needed to protect Ji-hun. Hearing this, Minju's heart ached. She finally understood just how much Ji-hun meant to Yoon-jae. Ji-hun had been feeling down for days. Noticing this, her sister called over Ji-hun's best friend for support. The friend comforted Ji-hun, suggesting it was time to get used to the gender switching. Seeing Ji-hun cooped up inside, her friend dragged her out for a run, insisting that getting breathless was the only way to forget her troubles. As Ji-hun ran faster and faster, her mind filled with memories of Yoon-jae. By the time she was completely exhausted, the heavy feeling in her heart had started to lift. Her friend helped Ji-hun analyze the situation. If this was going to be her life, maybe she needed to look at it from a different angle, especially when it came to Yoon-jae, and how to manage a relationship that was destined to be a roller coaster. For Ji-hun's sake, Yoon-jae decided to give up the opportunity to study abroad in the U.S., even throwing away his university applications. Minju was frantic when she saw this. She asked him if he saw the male and female versions of Ji-hun as the same person. Yoon-jae nodded, but Minju argued that it was impossible to love two different people at the same time. Ji-hun was summoned to Yoon-jae's house by his parents. Thanks to Ji-hun's tutoring, Yoon-jae's little sister's grades had improved for the first time ever. His parents pleaded with Ji-hun to keep tutoring their daughter for another month. Faced with their earnest request, Ji-hun had no choice but to agree. In the sister's room, she started gossiping about Ji-hun's romance with her brother, even saying she hoped they would go to the U.S. together so they could date freely. Unfortunately, Yoon-jae's parents overheard everything from outside the door. They finally understood the real relationship between their son and his sister's tutor. The conservative mother couldn't accept it, and was so shocked she became sick in bed, accusing Yoon-jae of deceiving her. When she saw her son publicly holding Ji-hun's hand, she became even more furious. But Yoon-jae ignored her anger, determined to take Ji-hun home. With tears in his eyes, Ji-hun told him to go back and take care of his mother first. What happened that day made Ji-hun realize she had been far too naive about their situation. On the way home, Ji-hun looked utterly dejected, his heart heavy with worry. Just then, Minju called out to him, revealing that Yoon-jae had given up his plans to study in the U.S. She accused Ji-hun of being selfish, arguing that his very existence was holding Yoon-jae back from his dreams and costing him a huge opportunity. Minju warned him that if they stayed together, situations like this would happen over and over again. If Ji-hun truly loved Yoon-jae, he needed to let him go. Minju's words were a brutal wake-up call for Ji-hun. He realized that in love, sometimes holding on is the most selfish thing you can do. The next day, Ji-hun met up with Yoon-jae, who was trying his best to act like everything was fine. But Ji-hun brought it up immediately, the dream Yoon-jae was sacrificing for him. He didn't want Yoon-jae to give up anything for him. From his family to his future, Yoon-jae's life was becoming a mess, and it was all because of him. That wasn't what he wanted. Seeing Yunjae still trying to put on a brave face, Ji-hun was the one who said the words. They had to break up. Maybe it was time to let each other go. After they parted ways, Yunjae couldn't stop the tears from falling. Elsewhere, alone in a quiet corner, Ji-hun cried his heart out. That evening, seeing his son was in low spirits, Yunjae's dad suggested they go out for noodles. But Yunjae refused. His father was surprisingly open-minded. He told Yunjae that as long as he was ready to take responsibility for his own life, he should live it however he wanted. But Yunjae just kept crying. Being happy with Ji-hun was the only thing he had ever truly wanted. To get his head straight after the breakup, Ji-hun decided to stay at his best friend's place for a while. Before he left, he went to see Minju, telling her they had broken up and asking her to convince Yunjae to reapply to the university in the States. At his friend's house, Ji-hun planned to start fresh by writing his own web novel. But just as he was settling in, there was a knock on the door. His friend opened it to find Min-hoon standing there with food. Min-hoon was shocked to see Ji-hun, still cluelessly believing he had just gotten back from America. When he heard Ji-hun was staying there, he immediately protested, insisting Ji-hun come stay at his place instead because it was inappropriate for a guy and a girl to live together. His friend tried to stop him, but faced with Min-hoon's questions, she stammered, unable to explain the complicated truth. Meanwhile, Yunjae was at school but couldn't focus at all. His mind was flooded with sweet memories of Ji-hun. Minju approached him, telling him she'd asked the university professor, and even though the deadline had passed, he was willing to give Yunjae another chance. She urged him to take it, believing that a fresh start somewhere new would help him heal. But for Yunjae, Ji-hun was still the only thing on his mind. While working his shift at the coffee shop, Min-hoon filled Yunjae in on how Ji-hun was doing. When he heard that Ji-hun was working hard on a novel competition and seemed to be doing great, Yunjae felt a mix of happiness and a sharp pang of disappointment. He'd assumed Ji-hun would be just as heartbroken as he was. Later that night, home alone, Yunjae picked up his phone to call Ji-hun. But the memory of Ji-hun's words during their breakup stopped him. After a moment's hesitation, he put the phone down. The following day, Yunjae handed in his application to study abroad. Thrilled that Yunjae had finally made a decision, Minju suggested they go out for drinks to celebrate. But for Yunjae, it was just an excuse to get completely wasted. He still couldn't get Ji-hun off his mind. That night, Yunjae was a drunken mess, endlessly murmuring Ji-hun's name. Worried about him, Minju found Yunjae completely wasted, passed out on the ground in front of Ji-hun's house. She had no choice but to half carry, half drag him back to her apartment. She laid him on the sofa and covered him with a blanket. Gazing down at his sleeping face, Minju felt a wave of emotion and leaned in to kiss him. But even in his sleep, he murmured one name, Ji-hun. Minju froze. A bitter look crossed her face, and she turned and walked away. Waking up the next morning, Yunjae realized he was at Minju's apartment, and a wave of embarrassment washed over him. He felt like a total idiot. He quickly and quietly tried to sneak out, but just as he opened the door, he came face to face with Ji-hun. Seeing him emerge from Minju's apartment, Ji-hun's expression turned to ice. He didn't say a word. Yunjae started to explain, but Ji-hun cut him off. "There's no need. We're broken up," Ji-hun stated flatly. "We have nothing to do with each other anymore." With that, he coolly unlocked his door and went inside. As the door clicked shut, Yunjae felt a crushing sense of despair. On the other side of that door, Ji-hun was falling apart. What Ji-hun didn't know was that on the night she had turned back into a girl, Yunjae had made a prayer of his own. He had begged for her to stay just as she was, to never have to change again. He would have done anything for her. After their breakup, Ji-hun and Yunjae started down separate paths. Ji-hun became a homebody, spending all day writing her novel, while Yunjae prepared to study abroad in the U.S. Desperate to see Ji-hun one last time before he left, Yunjae asked their friend Min-hoon for a favor. Min-hoon texted Ji-hun, using the excuse of needing to get some clothes back from her. But when Ji-hun showed up, it was Yunjae waiting for her. Face to face with Yunjae, Ji-hun put on a brave front. She insisted she was doing fine, and told him to take care of himself in America, to eat well, and get enough rest. But Yunjae was there to win her back. On the verge of tears, he asked if she truly wanted him to leave, not wanting to stand in the way of his dreams and future. Ji-hun made the heartbreaking choice to turn him away. That night, Minju let it slip to Ji-hun that she and Yunjae were flying to the U.S. the very next day. Hoping to give them a chance for a proper goodbye, Minju deliberately mentioned the exact flight details. The next day, Yunjae said his farewells to his family at the airport, but Ji-hun never showed up. It wasn't until her best friend called that everything clicked. With her friend's prompting, Ji-hun had a shocking realization. The final lines of her novel were, word for word, Yoon-jae's flight information. Realizing she wasn't over him, Ji-hun raced out of her house and rushed to the airport. But she was too late. As she arrived, Yoon-jae was already boarding the plane. They had missed their final chance to say goodbye. A few days later, Ji-hun's family was having dinner together. Her parents were worried about her after the breakup, but she reassured them. She explained that while her mom had bravely fought to keep her dad from leaving long ago, she believed that letting Yoon-jae go was the most complete and selfless ending for their own story. Meanwhile, Ji-hun's older sister, D-hae, had a breakthrough in her own love life. Boldly chasing after her crush, she bought a giant bear costume and wore it to his exam location to cheer him on. Moved by her courage and persistence, he finally asked her out to eat for the first time. 3 months passed. Ji-hun focused on herself, eating well, working out, and living a positive life. Over in the U.S., Yoon-jae poured all his energy into his studies. Minju, who had a crush on him, often tried to get him to hang out, but he always turned her down, saying he was too busy with school. One day, Yoon-jae's sister texted him about a new web novel she was reading, telling him the main character reminded her a lot of him. As soon as Yoon-jae started reading, he knew instantly the author had to be Ji-hun. With her best friend, Yoo-ri, cheering her on, Ji-hun's novel became a huge success, earning tons of love and praise from readers. One day, while hanging out at Yoo-ri's place, Ji-hun stumbled upon a surprise. Their friend Mi-hyun was hiding in the closet. Seeing how close he and her best friend were, Ji-hun immediately put 2 and 2 together. They were secretly dating. Min-hyun was still in the dark about Ji-hun's double life and couldn't understand why. He was always hanging out at a girl's apartment. Ji-hun had to think on her feet, lying that Yoo-ri's place was just really quiet and great for writing. Taking her at her word, Min-hyun offered an even better spot, the coffee shop where he worked. It was always empty and even more peaceful. The cafe owner, a laid-back woman named Jong-ja, took one look at Ji-hun's handsome face and hired him on the spot as a part-timer. And just like that, Ji-hun started working there. When Min-hyun handed her the uniform apron, her heart skipped a beat. On it was Yoon-jae's old name tag, the same one he used to wear. Seeing his name, she couldn't help but think of him, so far away. Meanwhile, back in the States, Yoon-jae used his free time after class to follow every new chapter of Ji-hun's novel. Since the story was based on their own experiences, each update brought back fun memories they had shared, making him fall for her all over again. Whenever a new chapter dropped, Yoon-jae was always the first one to leave a comment. Oblivious, Ji-hun had no idea that her most loyal fan was Yoon-jae himself. She started interacting with him regularly in the comments section, sharing her thoughts on the characters and the story. Through these anonymous exchanges, the beautiful memories of their past love grew even stronger. Yoo-ri and Min-hyun's relationship also took a surprising turn. Even though they were together, Yoo-ri felt like she'd never gotten a proper, official confession from him. So, one day, Min-hyun set up a miniature amusement park inside the cafe, held out a bouquet of flowers, and formally asked her to be his girlfriend. Swept up in the romance, Yoo-ri gave him a deep, passionate kiss. Ji-hun witnessed the whole thing. While she was happy for her best friend, the moment made her ache with nostalgia for her own first kiss with Yoon-jae. Even now, she still couldn't forget him. Deep winter arrived, and snow began to fall outside the window. A wave of sadness washed over Ji-hun. If only Yoon-jae were here right now, she thought. Just then, a mysterious customer walked in, their face hidden by a hood. They wordlessly handed Ji-hun their passport. As she looked down at the photo, her eyes widened in disbelief. It was Yoon-jae. The day Ji-hun published the final chapter of her novel, Yoon-jae had made his choice. He had to go back to her. To chase after the love of his life, he had decided to drop out of school. And now there he was. Standing in front of Ji-hun, Yoon-jae read aloud a letter from his professor. The professor wrote that while Yoon-jae had given up on studying the cosmos, he believed Yoon-jae's true universe wasn't the vast, open galaxy, but simply the place where a certain person was. With the letter finished, Yoon-jae took Ji-hun's hand, and they went to look at the stars. Though the galaxy was far away, Yoon-jae felt a sense of calm. The distant place he had been searching for, the one his heart always belonged to, was right there next to him. This time, Ji-hun didn't pull away. Yoon-jae then handed her a card from Minju. On it, Minju had written that she decided to return Yoon-jae to Ji-hun. After her time studying abroad, she had come to realize that she could never truly win his heart. Yoon-jae playfully told her she had to take responsibility for him now, even joking that he planned to move in across the street from her. It was then, through their conversation, that Ji-hun learned the truth. Yoon-jae was her loyal fan from the web novel all along. Looking at the boy who understood her so completely, Ji-hun finally let go of her last doubts. Did it matter if she was a boy or a girl? All she knew was that being with Yoon-jae felt like pure happiness. Yoon-jae said the same. It doesn't matter. As long as it's you, Ji-hun, that's all I need. With everything out in the open, they were officially back together. By the time Yoon-jae returned, Ji-hun had been living as a girl again for 3 full months. But even then, she still packed things like a razor in her bag whenever she went out, a small remnant of her other life. The future was still uncertain, but that didn't matter. Right now, they were lost in their own happy little universe. And that was more than enough. And that's how the series ends. And that's all for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this recap, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more. Your support means the world to us.